And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Women of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today we are discussing personalities and its limitations according to our philosophy on this channel. First of all, what is the end goal of this entire channel, of our entire existence? Because that's what we're trying to explain, or to bring about a change towards, okay? This channel is to help the world understand the world that we're living in. And if we're going to understand it, it helps to understand ourselves. So you'd think that personalities would be a very important aspect of understanding the world, because we can't really understand ourselves without personalities, or can we? That is the question that we're answering today. First, we need to know what our end goal is as a community, as together as a world. It is to create and produce happy families that live together in communities that are living harmoniously together. And then this needs to create a ripple effect so that the kids that grow up in these circumstances also create happy families of their own that eventually create happy societies, and eventually there's freaking peace on earth. Oh my gosh. Imagine if that was possible. It is. And we're moving towards it, slowly but surely. It's happening every single day. But it's not the current circumstance. The current circumstance is what's happening right now. There's a lot of conflict, a lot of fighting, a lot of division, a lot of divorces, a lot of kids growing up without both parent households, right? There's a lot of crap happening in the world today that can and should be avoided. But we need to understand us as humans in order for that to happen. We have to understand each other. How do we do that? People say that humans are complex. Men are complex. Women are even more complex. And complexity, if we can't make it simple, if we can't bring it to simplicity, then we'll continuously fail. Because we as humans, we don't understand very much in depth, okay? Like, we can't all be professionals at the in-depth stuff. But it would be nice if we could become professionals at the simple things. The simple things that we need to understand, that we need to remember in order for all of us to be happy as a society. There's just a few simple things that I recommend that we need to remember. And once we remember them, once we understand that philosophy and how things work, how we humans are actually quite simple to understand, everything changes. Let's bring simplicity back. Or let's make the complex easy to understand. We all desire to be happy. That's the simple thought. Every single one of us. Even those that are miserable, that remain in their misery, they're simply ignorant on what will actually make them happy. Okay, so they're basically victims of their circumstance and environment. And that's how their situation is. But all of us desire happiness. And preferably for it to be exponential, which means that it consistently grows over time and then explodes, right? Where you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy, I don't even know what to do with myself. That would be amazing. We can all arrive at that point, and eventually probably will arrive at that point, all of us, eventually. Probably past this lifetime for most of us, right? But one small step at a time. There's a science for us to understand. The science of happiness. It's the most important science to understand. And yet so few people have it. Again, we need to realize there's a simple science to it all, and it's not complex. Okay? Which brings us now back to personalities. You see, the world is struggling. It's people are hurting. There's a lot of suffering going on. And you've heard the quote by Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. Now, unfortunately, most of us can't change. Like we suffer because we're striving to change, or are we? That's the aspect that we need to look at. Are we able to change? Because if we're not able to change, we're going to still remain in the same circumstance. At some point in time, people need to change. If no change happens, we never arrive at our final destination of happy families and a happy society. That needs to happen. My experience with personality tests, or personalities in general, is that we put our labels on ourselves, which are great. It helps us to understand who we are, but then it stops us from evolving. It stops us from doing the things that are necessary for us to be that change in the world. Because it's just who I am. I am like this. This is my personality. That's just me. Because if that's the viewpoint, then you can't change, which means that us as a world can't change. It's a little bit different between men and women though, because women are more environmental creatures than men are if men tap into their masculinity and leadership. If they tap into the aspect of actually becoming less emotional or having less intense emotions than what women do. For men, that's a decision that they can make that is actually in accordance with their nature. So men actually moving towards masculinity is healthy for them. It actually works well with their reproductive system and works well with their whole body, okay, and how they're wired. Women, on the other hand, if they constantly move towards discipline and focusing and changing, then eventually that's going to tear them down over time. We've been programmed differently, men and women. And that has a lot to do with... that coincides very much with this aspect that I'm talking about when it comes to personality. Because if you look at it, who is it that talks about personality tests? That talks about tarot cards, that talks about horoscopes, that talks about, all of those things. Very often you'll find it's femininity. Masculinity don't spend much time there. Because femininity understand, inherently that they're not designed to change. Their environment is supposed to change. So once you understand the personality aspects, it's kind of like, this is who I am. Now you know who I am. Now you know better how to handle me because I'm not going to change before you change. So that's a feminine outlook on things. Masculinity, he can change who he is at any given time, at any point, if he chooses to do so. So no matter what personality he is from any given test, he can choose to upend, decide to be something else. If he wanted to, if that is in line with his goals that he needs to pursue. Masculinity and femininity, completely two different stories. And that's what we're studying today, and I'm going to get back to that. What are some of the tests that are being used? Personality tests. I don't have a list of all of them here, but there's tests like these personality tests started around late 1917, That's basically what Google says. It says right here. 1917, objective personality testing began, blah, blah, blah. And other people say 1920, etc., etc. So it's been approximately 100 years that we've used personality tests. Has it really changed the world? No. It does some things, though. It helps with some things. Let's see. There's one aspect. How can it help? I read on an article that it helps with 5 great things. It can help you to inform about your career. That's great. It can help you to understand what to study, So in line with your personality, what career do you choose? What kind of studies do you do? And yet people are completely confused no matter tests they take. You notice? And sometimes they even change careers. But the 3 last things are actually somewhat useful. They say understanding your strengths and weaknesses. if I want to evolve and change, it's good for me to understand my strengths and weaknesses. I can agree there. It plays a role in social interactions. I like how it says plays a role because I've noticed that even the people who are so fired up about personality tests, if they're in a fight or if they're emotionally heated about something, they're not going to return back to, oh yeah, the personality test said that I'm talking now to a specific personality, so I need to change the way I talk to that person because of that personality that I read about, because that person is that, and I'm that personality, and that's, we should be able to communicate. You don't remember that type of stuff when you're actually in the middle of an argument or in a heated situation. You don't. Okay, so it has a small part in playing in social interactions. If you're extremely good at it and you've really done your deep dive into personalities, maybe you remember in a certain circumstance like that. But the majority of the time, you probably won't. And the last one, it feels good to know yourself. And I completely agree with that one. However, what I found, okay, you've got the Enneagram, you've got the Myers-Briggs test, you've got horoscopes, you've got tarot cards, you've got astrology, numerology. There's so many different ones, okay? But I want to keep it simple, okay? And the best one that I found that is close to our philosophy, and it actually was part of us discovering this philosophy, was what is called Personality Plus. There's 4 different personalities that they talk about in Personality Plus, and I like these, okay? And if you look at these, there's 4. You got choleric, melancholy, phlegmatic, and sanguine. Why 4? Why do I like this one better than anything else that I found out there? It's simple. It's still almost impossible to remember. But Myers-Briggs has 16 personalities and 2 different variances of those 16 personalities. So actually 32 personalities. And you have, like, I'm struggling to remember every time, who am I again? Oh yeah, that person. Oh yeah. No, it doesn't work in real life. And if something doesn't work in real life, the utility, it's kind of, in my opinion, useless. Unless for the specially interested who needs it to understand a specific person at that specific given time. Someone who is a leader. Someone who actually can change himself in the middle of a social interaction in order to persuade or help that other person who has a certain personality type and help them to get to the next level. Then it can actually be a great thing. Salespeople understanding how this works can help them as well to close a deal that might be necessary. So there is usefulness in understanding these personalities, but it has way less usage than the things that I'm going to share with you guys on this channel. Way less. And in many ways, it stands in the way of understanding the things that we teach on this channel. Okay, but going back to the Personality Plus aspect, you got choleric, melancholy, sanguine, phlegmatic. And how it was used in the specific business that I was a part of 10 years ago, 5 years ago, was basically, okay, so if a person is choleric sanguine, because they always combined 2 of the personalities together, then you could kind of know how you would approach that person, what you would talk about, how to get them fired up and excited and motivated, etc., etc. And it also helped you to understand that, okay, I'm choleric, phlegmatic, blah, blah, blah. And I found out during that time that I was melancholy phlegmatic. So what would I be? I would be task-oriented, so I would do a lot of thinking, and I'd be phlegmatic, meaning I was more introvert than other people. Doesn't seem like it, right? Exactly. Because the more masculine you become, and I've grown throughout my journey, the more you begin to develop the other aspects. You begin to become a chameleon. What I've noticed, though, is if you really dig deep into it, you'll notice that masculinity is choleric and melancholy in its optimal state. The majority of time, a masculine man is choleric and melancholy, extroverted and task-oriented. Why? Femininity is all about people. Masculinity is all about tasks, menial task that needs to be accomplished in order to achieve a worthwhile end. And sometimes masculinity has to not care about what needs to happen. They have to not care about their own feelings and sometimes not care about someone else's feelings. Obviously, they shouldn't harm other people, but feelings shouldn't get in the way of what needs to get done. Okay? Masculinity understands this because we have to override our emotions in order to get the results that we desire. So that becomes a habit, which means that we run over other people's emotions as well. But the better leader you become, the better you're able to actually angle that so you can actually make it so that other people's feelings are not hurt massively in the process of achieving goals. If that makes sense. Femininity, on the other hand, which is part of women, right? The more a woman becomes feminine, the more she'll be sanguine and phlegmatic. Phlegmatic means basically being more of a follower, okay? Kind of going along with the crowd, being flexible, being kind, being, all those things, and all about, in many ways, feelings, okay? Kind of. Because it's introvert, right? But at the same time, phlegmatic is not really introvert in my opinion, because if you combine it with sanguine, you get best of both worlds, okay? So let's go a little bit deeper into these four, just so that we understand, but then I'll take it to the masculine and feminine over time. Okay, so if you look at this one, you'll see the red one is choleric, okay? Dominance. Now, as a woman, if you're watching this, then you'll recognize the things that turn you on in a man. What turns you on in a masculine man? It's masculinity, it's his power, his ability to do, okay? And you'll notice, what does red say about that? Dominance, direct, decisive, independent, and to the point. Okay, this is perfectly in line with power and the ability to do. Bottom line and results oriented. Often strong-willed, enjoys challenges and immediate results. Immediate results, I don't know. Yes, I get it. Okay, he wants steady results in order for him to get the long-term perspective. But he uses his dominance in a wise way so that he doesn't override people completely, right? But that's masculine. You see that? Boom. Making things happen. And then you'll see the other one is the green one is melancholy, which is also masculine, which is steadiness. Team player, cooperative, and supportive of others. Prefers... No, that's not the one. No, it's compliance. My bad. Okay, compliance. Cautious and concerned, focused on what is correct, plans ahead, and concerned about accuracy. Okay, that's more in line with melancholy. Like this here. Let's do it right. Melancholy. And choleric, let's do it now. Let's make things happen. Okay? And then you'll have phlegmatic, which is steadiness, team players, cooperative, supportive of others, prefers being in the background, working in a stable environment. Often good listeners, prefers to avoid conflict and change. So kind of more along with the crowd. Influence is the sanguine aspect, which is optimistic, social, outgoing, enjoys being on teams, sharing openly, entertaining, and motivating others. Let's do it together. And let's do it in a caring way. That's feminine. That's masculine. See that? Myers-Briggs, 16 to 32 different personalities, doesn't talk about that stuff. Okay, the Enneagram doesn't really dig deep into masculinity and femininity. Although every single personality test, you'll notice, has the aspects of masculinity and femininity. All of them. If you really want to take it to the nth degree, in simplicity, you don't even need the personality test. You only need to know what's masculine, what's feminine. That's all you need to know. And we can use this one as an example, and I'll tell you that even this one is wrong. Okay? No offense to the people who've written these, but hey. Okay, let's look at sanguine, for example. Sanguine is femininity, okay? Let's just look at it from that perspective. There's tons of guys out there who are sanguine, okay? And in many ways, people say that those guys have a personality. If they're, extremely excited and bubbly and all that stuff, fantastic. But, okay, let's look at it. Sanguine, is it leadership? If you're all over the place, animated and stuff like that, yeah, you could lead, but it's not going to be very long that you lead them, because as a sanguine person, you're very often diversified. You jump from this thing to the next thing and to the next thing to the next thing. And that makes it haphazardly, so people actually eventually don't follow you, which makes it so that you're actually not a leader. Okay, so leadership here, completely off the charts, not correct. It's not sanguine. Leadership would be choleric. Okay, carefree. Now that's more in line with sanguine. Don't really care and are free to share whatever they want with anyone. Okay, lively, easygoing, responsive, talkative, outgoing, sociable. Completely female attributes. Men have to develop these very often if they're masculine. If they're feminine, they're going to do it naturally, but then they're going to struggle with the other aspects of cholericness and melancholy in order for them to actually achieve their goals. Sanguine people hardly ever achieve their goals. I'm talking about sanguine guys now. They just don't. Same thing with phlegmatics. And I'm talking about business goals, achieving huge achievements. At some point, they have to become choleric and melancholy to achieve their dreams. So they have to change. They have to literally morph from what they were and morph into something else. Now people say, well, that's impossible because that's just my personality. But if you're going to achieve something, what matters is the achievement and the goal. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do and how you feel. What we care about is the end goal, right? Just like I spoke about in the beginning, the end goal is happy families. The end goal is attraction between the genders, polarity. That's why we need men to move towards masculinity, because that will allow women to remain in their femininity. The only reason why women are not in their femininity is because men don't take on the masculine role. So we end up having the aspect of women saying to themselves, if he's not going to do it, then I'm going to do it. And we end up in all sorts of problems. Because no man in his right mind enjoys having a choleric, melancholy wife. And him being the sanguine, phlegmatic one. Don't work and is horrible. Okay, and you see that on the other side. Phlegmatic, calm, even-tempered, reliable. Okay, now that would be great to have a husband that's like that. But at the same time, if he's like too reliable, meaning like he's too... nothing changed, like nothing happens. It's like pushing a noodle. Don't work. Controlled, peaceful, thoughtful, careful. Careful. Could you imagine having a husband that's careful all of the time, who doesn't take risk, who doesn't make things happen? Being phlegmatic is completely the opposite of being choleric. Right? So it's kind of like being masculine is completely the opposite of being feminine. Like he might have some feminine traits here and there, but that should be minority, like 5% of who he is, preferably over time. So that's phlegmatic. Those, I would say, yeah, thoughtful. Okay, thoughtful about other people. If you combine this one with this one, it'd be better. Because then you kind of understand what's going on. Okay, people-oriented, if you're phlegmatic and sanguine. Fantastic. That's what we need for kids. For mothers to be people-oriented. Okay, but we need men to control their emotions, for sure. But I would say that a melancholy actually controls his emotions very well as well. So you kind of have that aspect. Melancholy, quiet. That's a masculine thing. You don't want to take the light away from your woman, right? You want to let her shine, so you remain her opposite. The more you as a man shines, the less the woman can shine. Unsociable, reserved, pessimistic, or in other words, realistic, sober, rigid, anxious. I don't agree with anxious. I don't agree with moody either. Because a melancholy man, he's not going to be those things. He's going to be more controlled. He's going to be... Do you see how they're mixing up the different characteristics, so to speak? Then you got choleric, which is active, optimistic, impulsive. I don't agree with impulsive in terms of cholericness, but he's changeable. He can change. He's excitable. He can get fired up outside his brain by choice. He can get aggressive, but not aggressive towards people, but aggressive towards achieving the goals. Restless and touchy, I don't agree. So you see how not even the best personality tests out there don't work in line with the ultimate personality test, in my opinion, which is masculinity and femininity. I have one way of checking out a man's femininity, okay, that I've mentioned that in a couple of videos on the Men of High Value channel, where I basically say, if you're able to go 30 days practicing semen retention, okay, you basically are measuring your femininity right there, okay? If you can't control yourself, you're measuring your masculinity and your femininity. The definition of masculinity, according to this channel, is the ability to control your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors despite circumstance and environment. No matter what happens around you, you are the leader. That's masculinity. You are consistent. No matter what happens around you, that's masculinity. You, as a woman, would want a masculine man. Okay? That is polarity, and that's how you have been wired from the very beginning. Now, you've been screwed over by guys who seemingly were masculine, but that's not what masculine was. If he was masculine, he would actually have retained you and taken care of you, because a masculine man is responsible. He's trustworthy, and he's consistent, right? So you've had contact with men who seemed masculine, but were actually quite feminine because they were erratic in their emotional outbursts, and they were sleeping around maybe, or whatever was. That's feminine, okay? Because it's focused on the now and immediate gratification. So you see how all of this kind of comes together the moment you begin to understand masculinity and femininity. Femininity is for you to be able to be unburdened as a woman. Carefree, not worry about anything that is not your responsibility, because you know that responsibilities are being taken care of and things can happen to you. Like what, for example? Money coming? That can happen to you. Wouldn't that be great if money just fell in your lap every single month and you had money to shop whenever you wanted? Exactly. Masculinity takes care of that and brings that to femininity. Falling in love. Do you want to be the one that takes care of that actually makes that happen? Because there's a science to it. A science that works every single time, no matter what. If you're a woman, you don't want to figure out mentally with thinking how the science of falling in love works. You just want to have it happen to you, right? Suddenly you're feeling it. Okay? That's feminine. That's wonderful. But a masculine man would be able to know how to fall in love and also know how to get others to fall in love with him, which is a good thing if he's a good guy, but could also be a bad thing if he's a bad guy, right? So, what was the goal? The goal of this video was to help you understand that, yes, although the personality tests out there and all of the different things that are out there could potentially help, okay? There's some things that I don't use at all and that I'm not interested in at all. Other personality tests or ways of understanding where people are on their journey could be helpful so that we know where they are. Just like on a map of a mall, where you need to know where you're at in order for you to get to your destination. Okay? We know what the destinations are, but very often we don't know where people are at. Then the personality test could be of assistance to us to actually help us to make things progress in the correct direction. But you'll kind of know where people are depending upon their obvious signs of masculinity and femininity. Masculinity is the destination that we as men should all strive for. If you as a woman are masculine, that's not your fault. That's not of your own doing. That's how you feel like being. So you end up using the characteristics of manliness on you to show strength or to be competitive or whatever it is that you're doing in the marketplace, but it doesn't suit you very well as a woman. It doesn't suit you very well in order for you to create a happy family that lasts for an extremely long amount of time, right? And creates amazing children. It doesn't suit women to be masculine. It suits them to be feminine. I'm not going to tell you what you should and should not be. You can do whatever you want. But I'm just saying that from a perspective of creating happy families long term that creates happy societies, men are responsible for helping and allowing women to remain in their femininity so that they can nurture and take care of children, so that children can grow up with the best possible personalities as possible, okay? In my opinion, we shouldn't really use the word personality, if possible, because we're in this together. It's not about us as individuals. It's not about me. It's not about me being special. It's not about me being unique. Nothing is about me. And nothing is about you. It's about us together creating something. The last aspect, and probably the most important thing that I share with you on this video, is the aspect of understanding significance and insignificance. All of us feel somewhat insignificant or a lot insignificant, okay? Insignificance in this world. Because of the way that we grew up, because of the way that we were neglected by our parents, very often that happens, because we were sent off to strangers to take care of us, and our parents weren't there a lot of the time, etc., etc. All of us, to some extent, feel insignificant. What do people that feel insignificant do? Well, they try to find ways for them to feel significant, because that's one of our most important needs as human beings, is to feel important and to feel significant. So we try to use different things, like, for example, personality tests to confirm to us that we are special. We are unique, we're significant, we belong. But if you understand the big scope of things and how things work and how you can actually, by design, make yourself feel significant, that's even better. How do you do that? Well, as a woman, it's difficult, no matter what. Unless you change the environment. Men are responsible in many ways for you to feel significant. They're responsible for creating that environment that makes you feel significant. Okay? What is it that makes you feel significant? It is if you make other people feel significant. If you make other people feel important around you, you automatically become significant in their eyes. Do you know how few people make them feel significant and important? Almost zilch, almost zero. So when someone actually makes them feel important and significant, it revolutionizes their brain. They're like, wow, I love being around this person because they make me feel good about myself. Right? That's what we need. We need more individuals who actually care about other people and making them feel significant and making them feel important and that they belong. Once you understand that, personalities doesn't really become important, other than trying to understand their personality, how important they are, and how we can help them become who they want to be. Who cares about me, right? That's what we need to come to. Men get there by understanding masculinity. Once they understand masculinity, they understand that they have goals that they want to achieve, which means that the best way to achieve huge, big, hairy, audacious goals is to get a team. Okay? There's personal development is a team sport. Achieving your goals is a team sport, especially when they're huge. So you got to understand how to work with people. And the only way that you're going to get other people to work with you to achieve a huge goal is by making them feel important. The more insignificant they feel in the process, the more probably they're going to leave and not participate in your project and participate in achieving your goal. Like, if you don't take care of their goals, they're not going to help you achieve your goals. It needs to be a win-win situation in the masculine world, right? But it's the exact same thing when it comes to women, when it comes to femininity. If you don't naturally help others to feel significant and important, they're not going to help you to feel significant and important. So the more masculine you are as a woman, the more you struggle with relationships, which means that you're going to struggle with your self-esteem and your self-worth and feeling significant and important because you've been rejected and left behind so much in your life. And yes, that is horrible. That is sad, but it can change. And what needs to change is the environment. A personality test is not going to help. Knowing the personality of your potential partner is not going to help. What you need to understand is to delve deep into the understanding of masculinity and femininity, and how the more you're able to change your environment so as to make it conducive for your femininity, that will improve everything, because you will naturally attract then a masculine man. The more feminine you are, the more masculine a man will come to your rescue, so to speak, and you will be able to feel that polarity and that in-love situation. At least temporarily. If you don't apply everything when it comes to the philosophy on this channel, then, it's going to be difficult to keep that. But you can, and we know how to, right? So you make sure you subscribe and like this video. The whole point that I'm trying to say is happy families is where it's at. Making each other feel important and significant is where it's at, because that will naturally bring that back to us, right? But women are not the initiators of this type of environment. Men are, but women can do their best to participate in an environment that is conducive for their femininity and allows them to consistently remain in their femininity, hopefully over time. The less problems, the more carefree they're able to be, the more they can remain in their femininity. And that's what solves all of the world problems. The more men move towards masculinity, all problems in the world will be solved. Because it'll allow women to remain in their femininity, and that will create happy families, amazing, beautiful children that are nurtured the proper way, and that will create a better and amazing next generation. See, it's not in the personalities. It's understanding femininity and masculinity, because it creates attraction. And attraction creates love. And love fuels obsession. Obsession equals loyalty. That's what creates happy families. And that's what we need more of. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are absolutely awesome. And I'll see you in the next one.